Egyptians divided the zodiacal belt into 12 astrological signs of 30 decans each, 30 degrees each. And they divided each sign into 3 sections or 10 degrees each, which are called decans. 36 of the brightest stars were said to rule over 36 decans in the year. Now, Egyptians perceived these 36 bright stars as spirits with power over the period of time or over the decan. Just look at this world today. It's a mess. Total chaos. And the governments are always talking about stability and controlling the economy and trying to govern by spying on other countries and each other at the national, state, county, city, and local levels. And the governments try to govern by reaction as opposed to planning and planning ahead. Now, modern governments constantly make laws, and they start changing them even before they go into effect, or they start planning to change them and recall them. Now, they promote education and religious systems that do not teach the meaning, purpose of life, but instead are dedicated to creating a subservient workforce. There's violence everywhere, mass murders, look at the school murder, shootings by drive-by shootings, an obese population that feeds on material things and violence, and not scientific, spiritual, creative thoughts. Now, Jesus, at his time, he said the people were asleep, and he called them sheep. Now, just look at the slave-descended people around you. The Catholic Church is still a ritual religion that's from the European dimension of evolution. They throw in holy water and have statues crying and candles and incense and confession and priests walking around here in these robes and costumes. They took that from the Greek dimension. That was a Greek hierophants dimension. And the Anglican Church, the Lutheran Church, the Seventh-day Adventists, all of those are Baptist Church, all of those are branches of the Catholic Church. Now, I can't, and Judaism is a branch of Mithraism, and Mithraism is a branch of all of the Hinduism. All of those are ritual religions. They're created by people who didn't understand the science of life, radiations, and like the Swanscombe tribe said 212,000 years ago, unseen forces. They didn't understand spirit. And but look at the chaos you have today. There has to be a better way to govern the earth and educate the population, and there is. You can govern it by astrologers or govern it by scientific understanding of radiation, of creation. If you read history, you'll see the Egyptians, the Sumerians, the Greeks, all ruled by astrologers, scientists, a golden age. Now this is, when I say astrologers, scientists, I really mean by scientific method. It doesn't have to be an astrologer, but it has to be a scientific method of astrologers. You do need astrologers too, but you have to use you can use other scientists too, but the earth should be governed by scientific means, without all this stratification and this hierarchy. And you have to look at, what is man? What does the incarnating spirit direct? Now, if you look at this picture from Dorland's its medical dictionary, you'll see that all of these are mammalian embryos. They all start off just alike, but one of them becomes a hog, one of them becomes a calf, one of them becomes a rabbit, one of them becomes a human being. Now, what's the difference? It's that directing spirit in there. The spirit is the one that directs this. Only a gaseous spirit could create all the intricacies of each mammalian category. Seth stated, each inner self, adopting a new body, imposes upon it and upon its entire genetic makeup memory of the past physical forms in which it has been involved. Now, Isaac Asimov listed many features of the human body. One is the size of the brain. The human body has nerve signals that travel at speeds as high as 200 miles per hour. That's traveling inside of your body. The human heart beats continuously throughout the life. The human body has approximately 60,000 mouths of vessels to carry blood. The human body is just an amazing thing. And we don't realize how much work, how much goes into or went into evolving man, how valuable man is. Man is a precious thing, the body, it's a beautiful thing, really. So what I'm trying to say is this is all time, and people think so little of themselves sometimes and of other people. Now, man's heritage is reflected in the structures of the brain. Now, here you have, this is from Sagan's book, Dragons of Eden, but this is just a diagram. But now, all of this sits on the fish-inherited neurochassis. Then this is the reptilian cortex. We inherited that from the reptiles. The limbic system, I think, where did we inherit? It's found in mammals and birds. It's also found in reptiles, but not in this, in its full elaboration. And the neocortex is what developed in mammals. That's a big part up on the top. That's us mammals. Okay, it's present to some extent in reptiles, but it only reaches its full elaboration in mammals. Now, Carl Sagan wrote Dragons of Eden, and he stated that the humans have two different, accurate and complementary, but poorly integrated modes of thinking that are connected with the right and left hemispheres of the brain. The two hemispheres are relatively independent in function. Now, according to Sagan, observations strongly suggest that those functions we describe as rational live mainly in the left hemisphere, and those we consider intuitive mainly in the right. Now, research has shown that natural, spontaneous, intuitive, subconscious functions originate in the right hemisphere. Calculated, premeditated, reasoned, planned, conscious functions originate in the left hemisphere. In other words, what I'm saying is, when you plan something, conscious thought, predatory functions originate in the left hemisphere. In the right hemisphere is instinctive thought. The right hemisphere is said to process information simultaneously, accessing several inputs at once, working in parallel like an analog computer. It works in the dream state. Now, musical abilities, athletics, creativity, and abstract patterns are associated with the right hemisphere activities. Right hemisphere functions are described as the principal means by which older races viewed the world. Those would be the Negroid races. And that's how they viewed the world. Eric Fromm, he's a psychoanalyst, and he called the right hemispheres the forgotten language, and argued that they are the common origins of dreams, fairy tales, and myths. The other type of knowing, the one in the Western Hemisphere, the one the West expresses irritation about, the existence of intuitive knowledge. The other, rational thinking, or that is fully verbal, involving complete synthesis, say, is probably only tens of thousands of years old. It began with Java Man 700,000 years ago. Now, conscious thought or rational thought is primarily a left hemisphere function. It is suppressed in the dream state. And modern man in the Western Hemisphere makes much use of left hemisphere functions of conscious thought, but little use of right hemisphere functions or subconscious thought. Now, when Africans came over here as slaves, came to the United States as slaves in the 16 and 1700s, and some in the 1800s too. Most of those people had instinctive thought. They could still mentally communicate. Thomas Jefferson, President Thomas Jefferson, made a comment about how the slaves could transmit information from one slave to another one 500 miles away with no visible means of communication. And he couldn't understand. He said they have the most wonderful system, but how they do it, I don't know. Sagan was saying that it's a matter of the right and the left hemisphere thought. I have instinctive thought. I have right hemisphere thought. I have no common sense whatsoever. But at any rate, man acquired right hemisphere functions from the earliest categories of man, and the left hemisphere were present in a dormant state. Man acquired a larger left hemisphere by mergers with the Simopithecus baboon, and mergers with Neanderthal gave greater use of the parietal lobe and increased the brain's overall size. Now, Sagan wrote, "The number of different mental states of a human brain is an unimaginably large number, far greater than the total number of elementary particles in the entire universe. All possible brain states are by no means occupied. There must be an enormous number of mental configurations that have never been entered or even glimpsed by any human in the history of mankind."